So you're gaining 200 horsepower. Or that'd be crazy. The thing I like about a supercharger is they have a really linear power band and they get into power really quick. As soon as you press down the throttle, it's immediate power.
Another cool thing about a supercharger is they're pretty easy to install. I mean, most manufacturers that sell supercharger kits will go ahead and include everything you need along with the tuning. So it's almost a no-brainer if you're sending this to a shop. Shops love it because of the ease of install. And if you're doing this in your backyard or your garage, everything is more than likely included for you to do the install as well.
Exactly. And also the other benefit to this is that anyone can tune it really. I mean, you take it to any dyno and they'll be able to put a tune on this.
I mean, obviously, who doesn't love the sound of a whining supercharger as it goes up into the power band? So, yeah, I mean, I personally, you know, between turbo whistling and supercharger whining, I think I like the whining a lot better.
Also, the best thing to come along with the supercharger is obviously the power that you're going to gain from it. The supercharger is very capable of making power, and it's actually very easy to up the power on it. All you have to do is replace a pulley to a smaller pulley and let science do its thing. Obviously, there's a lot of pros and cons to a few of these machines, so let's go ahead and break them down and find out more about each one.
So not in any particular order, but first on the list, we have the RZR XP 1000 or the XP4 1000. This is a really good platform to start off with, only because it does lack some power, but they do give you some room for improvement. This does come in two different wheelbases, same width with a 64-inch width, but the 2-door is 90 inches and the 4-door is 117 inches in wheelbase.
A longer wheelbase will be a little more stable in a corner, and as you're going through, you're going to be able to handle it very easily. But with the 2-door variant, you're going to have a lot more agility with it. It's going to be a lot more responsive when you're turning in. Stuff like that is going to be really helpful on the track. So the other thing about the RZR XP 1000 is that it has 110 horsepower. Now it keeps up with a lot of these other machines because it's so lightweight. The Yamaha YXZ actually shares similar dimensions to the RZR XP 1000 with a 64-inch width and a 90-inch wheelbase. This is going to share similar handling characteristics, but where it lacks is the 200-pound weight increase.
Although the YXZ is overweight in comparison to the other machines on the list, it does make up for it in power. It does have an additional 4 horsepower, which, believe it or not, makes a difference in a UTV.
Especially with that weight. The weight is the biggest thing. I mean, these machines weigh nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cage.
Yeah, literally.
Cage on wheels. Another cool thing about the YXZ is its 5-speed sequential transmission for your motorcycle lovers and CVT haters. You don't have to replace any belts, but it does come with the obviously 5-speed manual and the automatic sport shift, which is really cool as well.
Yeah, definitely helps out. But also the thing that helps out a lot is for those people that are like true enthusiasts, they're able to get that real car feel out of the YXZ because you can manually shift your gear.
Yeah, you're able to stay in that power band a lot longer.
Right, exactly.
You know, you're not depending on the one gear, a CVT belt.
Yeah, and what I've noticed, every time you go into a corner with the CVT transmission, you're bogging it down completely.
Yeah.
You're at the bottom of your RPM range, and every time you try to get through that corner, you're having to bomb it as fast as you can and power through it as fast as you can, so your RPMs don't dip. Mm-hmm. Whereas in a YXZ, you can just downshift into the gear that you know you need to go into in that corner, and you're going to be in the power band. The Kawasaki KRX 1000 is actually wider than all the rest. It's 68 inches, which is pretty impressive, honestly.
So this machine was made with the crawler guys in mind, you know, the guys that are trying to get over the big humps and logs and stuff like that, or even the guys down south that pick the big, you know, put the big wheels on them and try to get
like
through
for mudding,
the mudding. Yeah, of course.
Like
high torque, low horsepower kind of stuff. And that's one of the benefits to the KRX, but also one of the downsides, which is obviously everybody else
tailored to that performance aspect. It was more of just like a machine that has loads of torque to get you through the mud, but you're not going to have that high-end power to go fast like everybody wants. So the biggest difference between the KRX and all these other machines is that there's 400 extra pounds on that thing, and that's a lot of weight to be thrown around, because you got to take into consideration that that's 400 pounds on top of your passengers.
And aside from, you know, we all know that us UTV lovers don't just put a passenger in the seat and let's go. It's our cooler, our, you know, all of our stereos, drinks. Our everything else that we, you know, our tables or everything else that we pull and haul around. So it is one of the downsides to where if you're trying to shed some weight, then obviously maybe the KRX is not for you.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into which one we'd rather supercharge. I'm personally a big fan of the Yamaha YXZ. It has 200 extra pounds, and that is not really a good thing, but honestly, if you throw a supercharger on that machine, it's going to make it so much more agile. It's going to keep up with the big boys.
Yeah, I mean, you did touch a good point there. You know, I think the YXZ is a really good machine. You know, after you put some power on it, even though it has an extra 200 pounds over the RZR, the transmission for myself, it makes up for it. You know, once you add that extra power, you're able to go ahead and keep the machine now in the power range that you want it. So which makes it easier to drive when you're going up against the X3s, the RZRs, the KRXs, the Talons, all that other stuff. The RZR XP 1000 is also a really good candidate for a supercharger. It gains tons of power, over 30 to 40 horsepower on just a supercharger alone with some tuning, proper tuning. The one setback I see for the RZR, even though it is a lighter machine and it probably gains the most out of the supercharger edition, is the CVT. You will have to spend a little extra money, you know, doing some proper clutching, as well as maybe some additional belts in case you do run through one, or, you know, slippage or anything
and
like
luckily,
that.
I mean, they're easy to replace. I mean, they're not hard. There's tools out there that let you replace them in 5 minutes. It's not as big of a deal as everybody thinks it is. It's just you're spending money on belt.
It's funny you say that, because I read on a forum one time where someone was explaining how a CVT tears through belts so often, and, you know, reclutching and so on and so forth. And someone simply responded with, would you rather repair a $3,000 transmission or a $200 belt? Even though, you know, you have your pros and your cons, always keep in mind of, you know, repair costs when adding power adders.
The big thing with these Kraftwerks supercharger kits is that they actually are pretty well built. I mean, it's a US manufacturer, they're out in California, and they have a good power gain along with the easy install process. I mean, you can bring it to any shop and they'll install it, as you were saying earlier, or you can do it yourself. A lot of times people will just wrench on them themselves because they're super easy to work on, honestly. It's not like a car where you have a super tight engine bay and everything's like super jam-packed in there. It's very open. The tubular chassis gives you plenty of room to work on it.
Right. No, and like you said, working with a kit like Kraftwerks is probably one of the more rewarding experience, not only because it's, like AJ said, very easy to install, very easy to maintain, and they're also conservative. They're not going to go ahead and ruin your machine while giving you a good amount of horsepower, you know?
Absolutely.
And the cool thing about supercharger kits is you can go ahead and take them, you know, to your personal shop and have them tuned a little more aggressively, a little more custom to your riding style. But you know, you'll definitely, out of the box, installed on your machine, you'll definitely feel a night and day difference in the drivability.
So honestly, I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna go with the YXZ. I think it's just a better handling machine, in my opinion. I mean, you do have a little bit of extra weight, but in the long run, I feel like you're able to get a lot more power out of the Kraftwerks kit with the YXZ, because at 6 PSI, you're going to be pushing 150 horsepower.
That's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
That's not bad at all.
Like 8 PSI on a lot of other machines is going to be the same amount of horsepower.
Yeah.
Like with your pick.
Yeah, so with the RZR, I personally would supercharge a RZR, just because of the weight difference. I think weight is speed, but the horsepower increase is, I mean, with just their normal kit is about 40 horsepower over stock, which is just insane, and it's nothing crazy. They keep it pretty conservative, and I can probably install this at home, you know, so like it's not, I mean, rocket science for the usual Joe Schmo.
Yeah, exactly. Have a good one, guys. Take it easy. Peace.